Hello, it's Bryan in the studio.
And it's Rick in Rochdale.
Welcome to the Touchstones tapes on this chilly morning. Spring is almost here and I can't wait. Can you, Rick?
It definitely feels like it's been a long winter, that's for sure. And happy International Women's Day, all.
Happy International Women's Day and thanks for tuning in. We're recording this podcast behind the scenes while Touchstones Rochdale's huge redevelopment project is happening. We want to keep you connected with the museum and it's good to have your company.
And who's in the collection store today?
And it's Katie in the collection store. This month's episode, we are celebrating International Women's Day and focusing very much on being women and how wonderful we are. I've just been out in the archives at the collection store looking through the archives from the 1980s because this was a time when Touchstones was very much focusing on the work of female artists. It was led by women. There were women working at the gallery and also showcasing their work. And if they were one of the only galleries really to be focusing on women at that time, they helped inspire a whole new generation of female artists who are working today. And actually, we featured a lot of this work in one of the last exhibitions at Touchstones before we closed for refurbishment, called A Tall Order. You can find out more details on our website.
Amazing, Katie. A Tall Order is still one of my favourite projects. Who have you got with you?
So today, I cannot wait for this. We are going to be talking to three amazing women who are working in Rochdale with women to make things better, and we'll also be looking at how Touchstones is helping support that work. So on today's episode, as it's International Women's Day, we're going to be celebrating and talking about the women in Rochdale. Touchstones and Rochdale in general has so many brilliant projects and groups that is to support and engage with women in the community, and it's all down to brilliant women like our guest today. So we have Nichelle Cutler, who is Neighbourhood Facilitator of Women's Network Rochdale. We have Asma and Begum, who's founder of a local charity, Soul Sisters, and she's also a podcaster. And we also have Councillor Bev Place, who works with Rochdale Connections Trust, which is a group that works with survivors and perpetrators of domestic abuse. So, ladies, welcome to the collection store. Have you been here before and what are your thoughts? Bev?
No, never been here before. I've heard about it. So my mum was the mayor of Rochdale back in 2014 and she was brought here to choose art for the Mayor's Parlour. So she told me how fantastic it was and that she was spoilt for choice. But yeah, this is my first time. So yeah, looking forward to seeing everything.
Brilliant, welcome. And Nichelle, I know that you've just been lucky enough to have a quick tour.
I have, yeah, my first time here as well, but I've just had a whistle-stop tour. I can't believe how many objects are here, how much art is here, furniture. You know, I could spend a week in here, easy.
And the clothes.
And the clothes, I really want to open the costume boxes, but I was told I wasn't allowed, so next time.
Some very delicate fabric in there. And Asma, have you been here before?
No, never. I've not even heard about this space. So just coming outside, I felt like we're going to go into some secret space. And when I come in, I'm like, wow. So I'm looking forward to be given a tour afterwards.
It is one of Rochdale's best kept secrets. So if I can get you to tell us a little bit about what you all do, because you all work with different projects and they're all amazing in their own way. So Nichelle, I'm going to start with you. Tell us about Women's Network Rochdale. What do you do and how does Touchstones kind of feed into all of that?
Yeah, so I work for Action Together, which is the infrastructure organisation for the voluntary sector in Rochdale. And one of my jobs is to facilitate the Women's Network, which is a space that we hold for all the voluntary sector organisations who support women across the borough to come together and share their work collaboratively. So a few different things really with Touchstones. I mean, it's a space that we use often to facilitate the network. It's a space where a lot of the groups I work with host their sessions. It's just a real central point for Rochdale and it feels like a safe environment for women to be in as well, which I think was why it's so popular with the women's groups.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And Asma, so when did you first, I actually met you for the first time in Touchstones. So tell us about when you first came into Touchstones and how that's helped your work with Soul Sisters.
It's quite a funny story actually, because my journey started from Touchstones. Hence, I've got this object with me, which is my book called Truth to Power. And I actually took part in a project called Truth to Power that was in 2019 in September. And at the time, so I'm a survivor of domestic abuse, and at the time that was like my first time I was going to go and share in public my story, but it was done so nicely. Like, I went with Living Well, Nichelle Kios. She took me to meet Lisa, who used to work there at the time. They took me around the building, showed me so I feel safe. They showed me the room it's going to be in and how it's, and that made me feel more comfortable. She sat with me in the office for ages and had a really good conversation about things. It just made me feel safer. And then doing that project, Truth to Power, it wasn't a lot of pressure. You could have a script in front of you. And there was no like guidelines that this is what you've got to say. So I could just say as much as I wanted. And that's where my journey started at Touchstones to what I am doing now. By speaking up.
That's brilliant. I can't wait to hear more about that later. That's really exciting. And Bev, tell us a bit about the work you do with Rochdale Connections Trust, because I know that you worked with Touchstones to produce a film with the Haven Group. Would you like to tell us about that and all the other work you do?
Yeah, so Rochdale Connections Trust are a provider of services for women victims of domestic abuse and male perpetrators. And we were approached by Touchstones to take part in an exhibition that they were holding. So it was the Sandretto exhibition a few years back. And they were really keen to engage with our groups of women. So the Haven group that you mentioned is actually for women who've had the children removed into the care system due to neglect attributed to domestic abuse. So a very vulnerable group of women. And we were really keen for their voices to be heard, but we needed to be really aware of how difficult a conversation it was going to be for them. So we liaised with the staff there, and actually a really good solution was found in that we used cards to express their emotions and their thoughts around the experiences that they'd gone through. So we were really fortunate that a member of the staff was a musician, and she wrote a song that is in the backdrop of the video. So it's actually quite powerful. And it was launched at the exhibition opening event. So the ladies came along and they were so proud. And yeah, it was fantastic.
It's interesting. There's a theme that's come up across yours and Asma's experiences, that Touchstones has been seen as a safe place for people, because I think that's really important to everybody who works at the Gallery and Museum, that everybody feels welcome and safe, and it's that kind of environment, because it just helps you all work a lot easier. So since you mentioned your object, Asma, the theme obviously today is women and women being brilliant. So do you want to tell us a bit more about the object that you've brought with you today? Describe it to us.
Yeah, so it's a book and it's called Truth to Power, How to Call Time on Bullshit, Speak Up and Make a Difference. And the author is Jess Phillips. And actually, she's said at the back, she's worked with victims of domestic violence and human trafficking and is now a Labour MP. So actually, this book is yellow colour. It's got some pink writing and black writings on there. And it's really bold, the truth to power. This was given to me by my sister last year for my birthday, because my journey started to where we are now with Soul Sisters, called the Truth to Power Project, and actually it was about domestic abuse as well. And the charity that I now run as well is supporting anyone that's been affected by domestic abuse. So this book is quite close to my heart, and the fact that my sister gave it to me, I mean, we don't talk a lot about this the stuff that's gone on, and even the project. We just want to move forward with things, but for her to do that, it's really meant a lot to me, and yeah, so that's why it's quite close to my heart.
So so Soul Sisters itself, obviously I've had a little bit to do with what you guys do, because you very kindly invited me onto your podcast, but it'd be really great if you could tell everybody a little bit more about what Soul Sisters does and how you support women.
Yep, so Soul Sisters Empowering People it's called now, but 3 years ago it was just called Soul Sisters, and it was just a community group running peer support sessions for women who have suffered domestic abuse. It could be directly or indirectly, and because of my own experiences and the challenges I went through when I fled 5 years ago, I realized I needed to share that. And also there were things that I learned in that journey that I wanted to share with the women. And when I was going to support groups, I was learning that the women needed that peer support, because sometimes when you talk about a situation, people that haven't been through it, like your family or your friends, you have to keep explaining yourself, and you're kind of re-traumatizing yourself and going through it again and again. So holding that peer support group, COVID started and we got quite busy. I was sharing my story online on social media, and from there it just grew and grew, and I was working quite long hours over COVID, like trying to support people in the right way, because I'd been through support groups and trainings and things. I kind of knew how to be very careful with what support I gave, otherwise I would I would refer them to the other services that could help them better, the police, because I know what my remit was. I had a separate number. From COVID, after that going down, I realised this must become something like a charity. It was either a charity or social enterprise, but I decided it should be a charity. I have a good group of ladies that are supporting me that have different skills and things, that are trustees now, and they are 90% of them are survivors as well. And so it became a charity, and through that we help women, men and children, not children yet, but we want to, who have suffered domestic abuse, whether it's directly, indirectly, and it's through advocacy. So going to the police, if they've got a court case going on, if they've got doctor's appointments, to speak to DWP as well with their benefits, doing applications, reading letters. And we do craft sessions with them, because it's all about looking after yourself, loving yourself. And we're doing this project in Touchstones as well, which again links with Touchstones, called Chorus of Power. And it's similar to what Bev said about women who've gone through domestic abuse. So the women that we support, sharing their stories in a safe way, in a performance piece. So we're working with a director who actually was the director of Truth to Power in Touchstones Cafe. Same director now I'm working with on this project. And we've been lucky to get some funding from Arts Council to do it.
That's like, it all comes around. That's brilliant. That's so inspiring, honestly. So Nichelle, do you want to tell us about the object you've brought with you today?
Yeah, so I've got a photograph on my phone, so I'll show you guys.
It's a very modern artefact.
It's very modern. Didn't quite have the time to print it out, I'm afraid. So I've got a photo here of my family. So as you can see, it's all women. We are on Filey Seafront. So I'm from, I think there's 5 generations of just women. My great-grandmother had 2 daughters. My grandma had a daughter. My mum had 2 daughters. And now myself and my sister have each got a daughter. So we are, a feisty women-led family. Being surrounded by women just means so much to me. I've got a really strong network of female friends around me, and always have, and I'm incredibly lucky to have them as an extension of my family as well. So I think when this role came up at Action Together, and one of the parts of it was to facilitate the women's network, I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to do that. And it enables me to work with amazing women like Bev and Asma that are doing such fantastic work. So yeah, and that's the only photo we've got. Unfortunately, my great-grandma isn't on the photo, but it's the only photo we have of all of us together, just the girls. There was some men, and there is some men involved in the family. We're not anti-men, but so it really means a lot to me, that photograph.
Oh, that's really lovely. Really love that one. And Bev, what have you got with you?
So mine's actually a piece of jewellery. And it's a bee that I'm wearing on a necklace. And I brought this today. I've worn it along with my matching earrings and my bracelet because my sisters bought them for me. So I've got 3 sisters, so it's a bit similar to Nichelle. Very strong group. We're very supportive and care deeply about each other. And I'm the eldest, so I was the one who, when we were in trouble and things, when we were younger, would tell the others to keep quiet and I'd do the talking. But yeah, I value them being in my life so much. And originally, I was born in Manchester, so this is a Mancunian symbol, but there's actually artwork in the town hall on the glass windows, stained glass windows, of the be, because all of the areas that Rochdale traded with when the town hall was built were represented. So it's really sort of powerful to me, and I consider myself to be hardworking and industrious, but it just reminds me of home and family and things.
I love it. I love how you've all just stuck to the theme of women and just be us all being amazing. So I really appreciate that. It's interesting how you've all talked about Touchstones in various ways. I was wondering how you feel organisations like Touchstones, museums, galleries, what their place is in supporting groups like yours, because your groups are all very grassroots led. So Asma, would you like to tell me a bit about why Touchstones is important and why other institutions are important?
Definitely. As I said earlier, that is where I started that journey, and I like the way the people that work in those places and Touchstones really care about the people that come in and are wary that there's got to be a safe space, it's got to be a warm space. We run groups there with the women on a Monday where it's close to the public, and the women feel safe coming in, and when they come in they're greeted nicely. It's a warm space, we get tea and coffee given to us, there's biscuits, and the room that we're in, we can close the door and they can just, privately have a conversation about the situation, or just even generally just build friendships. And they have all built friendships. Their confidence has been built at myself. When I started going there, I feel really comfortable asking for help if, when I needed the space. And I work in Factory International in Manchester part-time, so I see how they also like to work. They are all about well-being and working with groups that, are affected by mental health or any kind of challenges in their lives, like homelessness and refugees and asylum seekers. And Royal Exchange as well, they do work with people like that, and they are really all for showing performances that are about social justice and changes and things like that. So it's really good that those spaces are open to things like groups like ours, and they understand that it's got to be safe. They understand that they can't cause any triggering.
Do you find, Nichelle, that being a space that's surrounded by art and heritage and things like that, does that help at all with the work that you do with women?
It's really nice to be in an inspiring space, I think, when you're doing any sort of work. I think the difference with Touchstones is I feel like the team that work at Touchstones are really well connected with the community in Rochdale. They kind of get it. So, while I've been in post, the majority of the exhibitions that have happened there have been in collaboration with a community group, often with a marginalised community group. So you kind of already feel that you're part of it when you go into the building. So yeah, I definitely think it helps to be in those spaces that the people that you're already working with have touched in some way or another.
Yeah, and I guess art can open up a different way for people to talk about their experiences, especially when they've been difficult experiences. I'm thinking that, Bev, you probably have seen that firsthand with the film project.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the people we work with are so marginalised and furthest away from being able to access art and culture, that we have an obligation that whilst we're working with them to address a particular issue, that we should broaden their horizons and take that opportunity whilst they're with us to engage them in activities that ordinarily they wouldn't have the opportunity to do. So, yeah, we did the Sandretto exhibition that I mentioned and the filming and things. We've done art groups with male perpetrators on a Saturday after they've gone through the behaviour change programme. So that's a really intense piece of work that's delivered over 6 months. We used Touchstones and an artist there to end the project, and they created a piece of art for their children. So that's something that they wouldn't have access to or have thought to have done. And the facilitators there have been fantastic. They really have the ability to engage with that client group and, taking the staff down to support the clients, the people that they've got that trusted relationship, has worked really well.
So I was chatting to my lovely co-host Bryan earlier, and he was telling me that galleries across the UK, their collections are only made up of 5% of female artists, whereas Touchstones is a little bit higher at 8%, still obviously not anywhere near 50%, but a lot of the work that goes on is to do with female artists. So I was wondering where you, as you all work in industries that are very female-led, you all work with a lot of very talented women. A lot of you work with artists as well who find more work in the community than they do in traditional gallery spaces. Where do you see this going, and how important is it to the work that you do with women for them to be represented and recognised?
It's really important. I think what we're saying about Touchstones, how it feels so comfortable because you can see the people from the community in the art. If you know you're in a female-led space, just by looking at the walls around you and the artefacts around you, you're instantly going to feel more comfortable. But yeah, 5 to 8%, it's still not enough, is it? But I know, Katie, we were talking earlier about the voluntary sector within Rochdale is predominantly led by females, and the majority of the creative work done in the voluntary sector is led by females. So maybe there's some work there to be done around promoting leadership and making sure women know about the spaces that they can access to get their work in there. And Touchstones are already doing a fantastic job at that. It's just getting the message wider, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no time to rest on your laurels. It has to keep on going. Asma, do you do much work creatively with women at Touchstones?
So we've done things like macrame, clay making objects, planting, painting self-portraits. That's been like a multimedia one. We had an artist come in. She wasn't from Rochdale, but she's got her own business and she does lots of creative stuff with other groups. Through that, we've learnt that the ladies, some of them are really good at doing canvas making and like Arabic writing, calligraphy writing. Another lady who I remember first when we started supporting her, she's like, I don't have any skills. She knows so much about cross-stitching. She's actually teaching the group cross-stitching. But through also working at Touchstones, I've been part of the culture network and I've met women that are artists that are like trying to find work that they can do within Rochdale. They're not recognised enough. South Asian women, black women, white British working class women who are like, they don't know how to find work, and I met them through the culture network, but through just generally the work that I do, women have reached out to me. There's a lady who is an artist. There's a lady who's an artist called Danny. Can't remember her full thing, but she came to my group as a survivor, but now she's doing well-being and using arts as a well-being therapy. Because what I always say is being creative, you're kind of like looking after yourself and building your strength back up as well. It's a way of expressing yourself as well without actually having to just sit with a therapist, like a counsellor, and talk about your situation. And it can make you feel stronger every time because you're learning a new skill as well. It's all the 5 ways of well-being.
Oh, totally. And I think that lockdown taught everybody a little bit about the importance of doing something with your hands and like creating something.
Some of the women are actually thinking of now starting like an Etsy account because they're learning skills in those group sessions. So being creative and having, women, they just need to be recognised more.
Yeah, it can lead to a new career, and artistic careers are as valid as any other. We were talking about that in one of our other podcasts about cultural education. So completely agree. Bev, Nichelle referred to you earlier before you entered the room as the Oracle. So I'm thinking...
She is the Oracle.
You probably have some really strong views about how women could be better represented in the arts and just generally for all the work they do in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm part of the network, the Women's Network, and it's fundamental that we get that group together and we make change for women in Rochdale. And it needs to be real, tangible change. I think for me, we're passionate about experiences and opportunities. I mentioned that. So, each year we take a group of women to Westminster. So we take them into the Houses of Parliament and things. And it's about giving people with no power or women with no power that opportunity to go and be at the centre of power. So, yeah, really passionate about it. And I think the opportunities that Touchstones provide for women to access different projects that are art related are fantastic and provide that inroad. We've done things with them where 100 years of women getting the vote. There was a big piece of work about getting women engaged in making a banner And the group of women who produced that then took it to London, led by a worker from Touchstones, and took part in the parade to commemorate, that significant date. So on the back of that, the women who'd been involved then got involved with a dance group that was going on there. So it's very much about taking that step with trusted allies, if you like, women that they've built that relationship with, and impacting on their self-worth and giving them that opportunity to enjoy something that ordinarily wouldn't be accessible to them. We're fortunate in Rochdale. There's a lot of women in leadership roles, particularly in the voluntary sector, as Nichelle said. We've all got a role to play, but coming together is the way to do it.
There's not just women in the roles, there's women supporting women to get into the roles. So everybody's really behind each other, which is, as a woman, it feels like a really great place to be.
I mean, I was supported when I was, coming out of my situation by RCT as well. And like now I am where I am. But also I know that Touchstones last year did an exhibition with Acorn House about safes. So it was women victims of domestic abuse that used the safe and an exhibition on, was it, I think, 16 Days of Activism. So this is just another example of how Touchstones support women.
It's so good to hear. Well, I feel really as if it's my work. It's not me. It's the brilliant team that work at Touchstones. So yeah, it's just brilliant to hear it, really. And it's interesting that in a town like Rochdale, where, there are quite a few social issues that go on and there is a lot of deprivation, but it's kind of had the opposite effect of inspiring all these amazing, well, not just women, but there are a lot of women to combat these issues head on and make amazing new careers for themselves. It's incredibly inspiring.
So last year's International Women's Day, I remember driving to work and hearing on the radio discussions around introducing football for girls into schools. So they've got that equal access and that access needs to be given across the arts as well. But you can see change, and, we're here now 12 months later and that's on the curriculum. But looking back, International Women's Day, it was almost like we pay lip service to it, we tick a box, but actually things are happening now and it's recognised and it's impactful.
I agree. It's lovely to see in the past on International Women's Day, people thanking their mums and stuff, but it's like, this isn't really what International Women's Day is about. It's about recognising the issues that still face women and the amazing work that women are doing every single day.
Yeah, society is so, unbalanced. We've got women who have to prioritise looking after children and they have to be the caregivers. And, it puts them at the back then again in with the career, in the workplace. And it's almost like we've got every obstacle to face and get over. And we're only going to do that if we come together and we unite and we support each other in those efforts.
I think if you look at it as a big picture, it can feel really overwhelming, really, really overwhelming. But luckily, groups like RCT and Soul Sisters, it's about chipping away continuously and not giving up. And, having, there's something brilliant about Rochdale women is, they're formidable. They're not going to be broken down. They see the issues, they recognise the issues, and they will hold their hand up and say, we're going to work together to tackle this. But I think, we've definitely had some movement over the past couple of years of things that are really positive that we're kind of trying to grip onto to make things better for women in the borough.
I think it's really important that the infrastructure organisation takes the lead on that because, we're all there operating in our silos, trying to chip away and do the best we can and make things better for women. So with the infrastructure organisation actually sort of coordinating that and making sure that we make the time is helping us on that journey. It's progressing the journey faster, definitely. And there's that passion and there's that enthusiasm in the room. It is real, you can feel it. We want that change.
I think I agree with what Bev, you said earlier as well about women, they have to balance. They're the main caregivers of the children. Some of them can be single parents and they're not moving ahead in their careers because there's these barriers. I'm, one of them, and I see ladies that come to the group when they're attending groups, sometimes they can't come because of children, because they're the main caregivers, they don't move on. They have ideas that they want to do things, but they don't because of the children, because there's no one else to look after them. So one of the things that I've thought about as well when I've been doing the Chorus of Power project is we've got this funding where we can give them lunch, and that really helps them as well. Just giving that lunch and offering childcare so that they can come to the sessions, and the kids can have another space that they can be creative as well. But when the kids are seeing their mums getting involved with other women coming to these groups, it gives them a positive picture as well of, look at my mum, she is such a strong woman, she's working with other women doing this creative stuff. And the ladies that go home from my group, they take their items with them, and their kids are like, wow mum, I want to do that, it's really pretty. They've made jewelry for their children or made a macrame item for the children, and the children just get excited to see their kids doing those things and coming to these groups. So we do need to recognize, how do we make those opportunities for those ladies to get involved or move forward with their lives, whether it's career or their own businesses that they want to do. We need to have some sort of opportunity there for them, even if they have got children, hence childcare and things like that. We need to consider all that, I think.
Yeah, I think that's something that we were conscious of, Asma. So we introduced at the end of our programmes the opportunity to link up with one of the workers and to explore next steps. So, it's very easy to sort of help people to build resilience and to get over experiences in the lives. It's not very easy. I don't know why I said that. It's very difficult. It's very challenging, but you can come to a point where you sort of go, okay, great, you've done brilliantly, job centres down there. That doesn't help anybody. They need that support, that ongoing support. Even if they get into the workplace or onto a training course, into education, they need that ongoing support. So I think recognising that and facilitating something that's beneficial is really crucial to women progressing. And, we deal with a lot of women, as you will, Asma, who come to us and they may have been in a relationship where money was provided for the family, and because they've had to flee, that's not the case anymore, and they're very conscious that they're going to be responsible for those children, and they want the best for them, and it's a very different landscape. So it's really important that we make that available to women, and that they're supported through a process to engage in something that they want to do, and provide for the families at the same time.
I think it goes back to that women in leadership, doesn't it? Action Together is a female-led organisation. Our CEO is a strong, clever, dynamic woman who recognises that for women within Action Together to progress, certain infrastructures need to be in place. So I'm on a flexi-time contract. I can pick my daughter up from school. I'm a single parent. I can attend her assemblies. I can go to the gym and take my daughter with me, and she can see me being strong in that sense, as well as seeing me, working to have a career to keep food on the table and, all the basic necessities that we need. So to have a woman that understands that and to work for an organisation that recognises that that's one of the only way you're going to capture the best talents is really important, and definitely what we need more of. Asma was talking about the childcare. It's a huge thing that's being spoken about in government at the minute. Why isn't childcare part of our infrastructure as a country? It just doesn't make any sense for it not to be, when there's so much female talent across the country that could be nurtured for the greater good of everybody.
When I go to network meetings and things, sometimes I take my son with me, but I don't know what it is. It's like I feel like every time I want to just do better and better, and I'm just thinking I'm going to go and I'll take my son with me. He's seen me on Zoom meetings over COVID, and for him, he's seeing the strong woman he is, and he says it. He'll say it very proudly to people, and when he's going to meetings, he's such a well-behaved boy, But again, I don't want to miss opportunities as well. But there are sometimes when I can't go to things. But it's that thing about, we need to just make it more accessible for those women as well. And even, women that are from South Asian communities that have language barriers. Like they didn't even know in my group, the women, that they could come to Touchstones and it's free. Like there's a cafe there. And what's wonderful about Touchstones on a Monday morning is they allow us to go and see the exhibitions with the women, and the South Asian women, they're learning new things that they wouldn't see because they're not allowed out of their house sometimes as well. So it's just brilliant. We just need to give women more opportunities.
Well, I am just
That's all I can
completely
say.
inspired
Sorry.
now by everything that you've had to say. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing the work that you do. And I'm just going to take that away with me and think about all the things that I could possibly do. Who knows? So yeah, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy International Women's Day, everyone.
Well, what an incredible conversation that was with just three such inspiring women. To hear about Asma's horrific situation that she was in and how she's managed to create something so incredibly beautiful and positive out of it. Nichelle, who told us about her family full of powerful women, and she's using that to help build other women up who need that. And then Bev, who just works tirelessly with people who really need her help and brings groups together in order to make people's lives better. I just don't think there's any better way to celebrate International Women's Day. So that's it from me, and I'll be back next month with Rick and Bryan for a brand new episode. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Katie. What an incredible conversation.
Thank you so much for listening to the Touchstones tapes. We want to thank Audio Always, who have helped us make this podcast.
We'll be back next month with a brand new episode.
Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Touchstones tapes on whatever app you use to listen to your podcasts. And follow us on our socials. We're on Instagram at Touchstones_Rochdale, or you can search for us on Facebook by putting in Touchstones Rochdale. Bye.
Bye.